It's an honor for me to be in the same room with our guest speaker. Our paths crossed a few years ago, and she is an unbelievable woman. She is the most decorated female American track and field athlete in Olympic history. Her best event, the heptathlon, also is the most grueling women's track event, comprising 7 events in a competition which takes place over 2 days. She set the world record for the event in 1988. It has never been broken. She is considered one of the greatest female athletes in history. But after her retirement as an athlete, Jackie continued to lead in other areas. She is the founder of the Jackie Joyner-Kersee Youth Center Foundation. And I'm going to vary from the script. 2 or 3 years ago, she received from the National Recreation Foundation in the United States the outstanding individual affecting the lives of at-risk youth. She is also a co-founder of Athletes for Hope, which encourages athletes to, quote, make a difference. Sounds a little like Jackie and Rotary have something in common. Friends, fellow Rotarians, please join in welcoming Jackie Joyner-Kersee.
Thank you so very much. I truly appreciate it, and it's an honor for me to stand before you and be able to share a little bit about myself and how I was able to really accomplish a lot of the things that maybe some of you have read about or know a little bit about. And but before I go there, I would just like to thank, Bob Stewart for asking me to come and share my story. I am so humble and blessed, to stand before you, because I realize where my blessings come from, and I do not and will not take it for granted. And for me, it started when I was born, with my parents, who were teenagers when they had my brother first, and I am the oldest girl, but the second child in line. And as a young girl growing up in East St. Louis, all we had was the love in our home. And my mom and dad always stressed, to us to be respectful, and they talked about goal setting, and as a young person, you didn't quite understand, where my mom or where my dad was going with it, especially my mom, because my mother, being 14 when she had her first child, and with me being the oldest girl, I felt was extremely strict, And as a young person, just trying to make my parents proud by making sure I would go to school, do the things that were asked of me, and really not to do anything that was going to be embarrassing, to my family. So, but as I continued to evolve and to develop, my mom would always make me read the local newspaper so I could know about current events, know what was happening, in the community, to know that I wasn't immune to it. So in my world, I was thinking like, well, I gotta do all this, My brother get away with everything. He don't have to wash no dishes, he don't have to do anything, and he's the oldest. But anyway, that was a whole nother story. So as I'm in my community, all of a sudden, there is this community center that's being built. At the time, we did not know it was going to be a community center. And when I say we, I mean my sisters and my next door neighbors and a lot of us who made up the neighborhood. And this community center was built. And when those doors opened, the security guards would allow us to come in and we could fantasize and dream, the impossible dream. Because we're thinking that impossible dream to us was like, oh, this is going to be a skating rink because it's a dome. And little did we know, our dream was dashed from the standpoint that it was a community center, which was even better. Because at that community center, I was exposed to the library. And at that time, I would go into the library and work with the librarian who would teach me how to check out books. And when I talk to young people, I tell them, I say, you used to check books out. You just couldn't Google everything you needed to know. So at that time, I was learning so I could be able to do my book reports. But then also, I was also introduced at that community center about athletics. And I got involved in ping pong, basketball, you name it. And track and field came along because the executive director wanted me and my sisters and my next door neighbors to make up the track team. And I thought that was a great idea because prior to that, they had a football team and we were the cheerleaders. And I was the captain. And I told my sisters and, my next door neighbors, so we're going to run this thing called track. So we go out there, we didn't have a track. It was a park. And the field, it was about, it's one lap around. And one lap around, they said, well, it's like 400 meters. We're 9, 10, and we believe in them. Because it wasn't no 400 meters. Anyway, so we run around this track, and one day, the next day, I'm the only one that showed up. Because my sisters and my next door neighbors have decided, no, they don't want to run this thing called track. It's too much running, and it's hot. And so I'm the only person that's left on the team. So the executive director take me over to across town to it was Franklin School and introduced me to a track coach that was working with other athletes. And they were classmates of mine. I knew them, but they were really fast and they were very good. So I go out to my first meet and I don't do well. I finished last in the 400 meters. But I wasn't discouraged. I just said to myself that if I can improve 1/10 of a second if I'm running, or 1/2 of an inch if I'm jumping, that meant the work that I'm doing is paying off. And it wasn't until later on and maybe some years that I recognized that, improving 1/10 of a second is good and 1/2 of an inch if I'm jumping. But I also realized that I could go from 9th place to 8th place to 7th place, but I wanted to get on the podium. And I got tired of being on the grass, and I got all kind of different color ribbons, and I was like, I got to get in the top 3. So I continued to work, and eventually I found myself in the top 3, making, national teams and, setting national records, and so, but that was just the start. So when I turned 14, the 76 Olympic Games was coming on television. And our coaches said to us, to watch those Olympic Games. And we were like, well, wow, what is that? Even though I read about my role model, Babes of Harriet, as well as Wilma Rudolph. And it was like, here we watching these Olympic Games, and now I see a young lady doing what I was trying to do. And at that time, they would put the university or the school that you attended. And it was Evelyn Ashford. And they put UCLA. And I just thought, wow, that must be a great school for female athletes, you know. But little did I know that UCLA would be eventually my school of choice. The school I wanted and I dreamed about going to. And I wanted to attend. But I was so afraid that the coaches, you know, from all over wouldn't come into my little small town of East St. Louis, because East St. Louis just have a negative connotation about it. And we didn't believe that the coaches from all over the nation would discover us. And little did we know that when you're talented, you know, they would come from all over. They came into them gymnasiums. They came into our classroom. They came into our homes trying to recruit us. And so that narrow-minded thinking was something I had to dissipate, alleviate, in order to go to the next level. So when UCLA came knocking, that I was ready and prepared. I go to UCLA my freshman year. All of a sudden, I'm talking about my dreams and my goals and the conversations that I've had with my mom and everything that I wanted to achieve, and seeing if it's going to be possible, because I'm so far away from home. But I knew the option of coming back wasn't an option. Is that I had to continue to keep my mind on the goal, keep my mind on the dream and on the things that I wanted to achieve, with the understanding that I couldn't do it alone. I have a support team that believed in me, but I could not allow their belief to be stronger than mine. So as I continue on this journey, I get my scholarship in basketball to UCLA. And all of a sudden, I'm on campus my freshman year. And things are not going well. You know, I'm going to practice, and I'm having a difficult time with my breathing, not really knowing what's happening. And I'm afraid because I believe they're going to take away my scholarship, because I think I'm not good, you know, and it's like, what is going on? I go to the student health and eventually go to an allergist and find out that I'm an asthmatic. And I didn't want to believe that I was an asthmatic. And all of a sudden, academically, I'm doing well in school, but athletically, it's a challenge. I remember calling home to my high school coach, and I said to him that I think I need to transfer. I said, because things are not going like I thought they should. I'm out here at UCLA, they're supposed to have the best coaches, but I'm not producing. And my high school coach reminded me, you went there for an education. And that's what you must remember. So as I continue on with the basketball and things going well, then all of a sudden, I'm faced with another challenge. The challenge of getting a phone call 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning that your mom is very ill. Not that she's very ill, that she has died. And I'm like, I just talked with her. So as I gather myself and say I must come home to find out what's going on. And as I travel from Los Angeles back to St. Louis and over to East St. Louis to St. Mary's Hospital, and being the oldest girl, my mom put a lot of responsibility on me that I did not know. That's what she was preparing me for. And as I gather my 2 younger sisters and my brother, and as we walk into the room and it was like quarantine kind of, my mother had skin had, darkened. She was a lighter shade of myself. And we just trying to figure out what was going on. And then come to find out that she had contracted the worst form of meningitis, that she was bleeding from every organ in her body. And she was in a coma, and we're thinking that, can she come back to us? So I said to my brothers and my sister and my mom best friend came in, and we like if we take her off I call it the breathing machine, would she survive? And Joyce said, along with Della being there, it's my mom, baby sister, Mary never suffered a day in her life. And my brother and my sister now left it up to me to take her off the machine in hopes of getting a pulse, but it just went flat. And from that moment, we as a family embrace each other. And for me, it was and will always be the whispers of my mother's voice. And the whisper of her voice was that she was teaching me at a young age about what it meant to give back. When I went into that community center and worked with that librarian, I really didn't know how to pronounce the word volunteer. But there were volunteers in my life at a very young age who taught me about giving back. And as I continue on my journey of wanting to make an Olympic team, it was much bigger than the Olympic team. It was really about trying to make a dream become a reality, to see if it was impossible. The impossible was probable. 1984 rolls around. My brother and myself, we make the Olympic team together. He wins the gold medal in the triple jump. I come away with silver medal. I didn't like it, but it happens, but so as I continue on this journey of trying to make Olympic team and coming away with the silver medal, is that I knew that I wasn't happy with it at all, because it goes back to the beginning of training. I never trained for second best. I trained to be the best from the standpoint of knowing that I had given 100%. And in those Los Angeles games, physically I was injured, but mentally I wasn't there. I doubted my coaches. I doubted everyone who believed in me, who helped me to get to that level. And all I had to do was execute. And my execution was thinking about a leg that was bandaged, that really wasn't as bad off as I made it to be. And I left those Los Angeles games saying to God, if you bless me to make another Olympic team, I want to be the toughest athlete out there mentally, because physically I have the ability to do it. But on this journey, I'm always thinking about home. I'm thinking about East St. Louis. I'm thinking about that center, because when I came back to the unfortunate news, I wanted to go to that center and find love, peace, and happiness. And when I walk over there, that the doors had padlocks on it. And when those doors had padlocks on it, I started thinking, where do the young people go? Where do they go? Where they have their outlet? Where they go and scream? Where they go and have fun? Or where they go and get a meal, but that might be their only meal of the day? And this is the early 80s. So once 84 rolled around, 88, I make my second Olympic team. All of a sudden now, I'm meeting with different sponsors and different people. But all I ever wanted to do was to use this platform to help me either reopen that community center or build my own. And in the process of going through the journey, I was faced with a lot of challenges, faced with people just try to use you for their own personal gain. And so what I decided to do was to take my own money and put it into organizations that I knew that would use the money like it should be used. And I didn't need a building to help people. So different organizations that I had been working with, but that was okay it was okay for a good 8 years. Then all of a sudden, 1996, as I'm training for my last Olympic Games, injured my right leg this time, not the left one, and get the news about us, my committee and everyone else who had worked with me, that we were going to break ground on a new facility in East St. Louis, would be the Jackie Joyner-Kersee Center. We sit on 37 acres. The building at that time was 41,000 square feet. And from that day on, in 96, I realized that it's bigger than me. I am blessed with a gift. I'm blessed with an opportunity to bless other people. And if I could continue to allow my blessings to shine on others, then eventually our doors will open. And those doors opened of the Jackie Joyner-Kersee Center in March of 2000. And when those young people come through those doors, they come through the doors with the understanding that character is everything. Integrity we will teach and you will have. Direction and destination. And for us, that it has been a blessing for me to know that God has blessed me to be in this position. And without his strength, it would be impossible for me to stand before each and every one of you to share just a glimpse of my story. As I sat in the audience today, listening to with polio, and it brought me to tears because Wilma Rudolph was someone who I admired, and to know that she had suffered from polio, but still she was able to gain strength and not only one day walk, but went on to become the first woman, American woman, to win 3 Olympic gold medals. So I take my hat off to each and every one of you. I take my hat off to each and every one of you to pitch in, do whatever you can, because we must eradicate polio. And as I continue on my own journey, and just trying to make a small dent in the community of East St. Louis, because when I was growing up, no one who had a name would even claim they were from our community. That's why I decided to come back and to be in the community, to inspire our young people to be the best that they could be. And if I leave you with this quote. And the quote is that you share shall multiply, and that you hold back on shall diminish. God bless you, and thank you.